Rev up your engines!
I just read a hilarious article. Electric cars, the unwanted rental cars. Well, it turns out that all these stupid companies now think they can rent electric cars, right? Hertz is the worst because they got agreements with Tesla, Polestar, and General Motors to get 300,000 electric cars in their fleet. And already, more than 1 in 10 cars in Hertz's fleet are electric. But the next time you go buy one of those lots, take a look. You're going to see a bunch of electric cars that are just sitting there because people do not want to rent them. Our government is trying to tell us we have to buy electric cars to save the planet, right? People aren't buying them. They won't even rent them. And people who have rented them said, oh, well, it ran out of electricity, it got stranded. And then they ask beforehand, companies like Hertz, what is your policy on the energy? And they're really iffy. They don't really explain the whole thing. I mean, we all know when you rent a gasoline car, smart thing to do is to buy it with a full tank, bring it back full. Because if you say, oh, I'll buy the gas in the car and bring it back, unless you bring it back empty, you're getting screwed over because you're leaving many gallons in the tank that you bought for that are theirs. Unless you have a regular car at the airport parking lot and you're going to siphon the gas out of your rental car to put into your car because you've already paid for the gasoline, right? Fill them up on the way back and that's it, right? Well, they don't tell you about the electric stuff. You're trying to get a plane flight. Oh, you're looking for a charger. Oh, it takes an hour, hour and a half to charge it up. Oh, you got to bring it back fully charged, right? If you're picking it up charged, and they won't even tell you the information at half these places about it. So it's bad enough they're trying to make us buy it, but in the real world of rental cardom, where we have a choice. The guy who wrote this article is hilarious. He said, a lot of people said, oh, you have Mustangs. Okay, let's look. And they go and they say, oh, you mean that electric Mustang? No, we don't want an electric car. And then they go to a different car. They don't want to rent the electric car. And I wouldn't either. I would not. Because there's too many ifs. How far can you go? How's the charging infrastructure where you're traveling? You don't live there. You don't know, right? You can't plug it in at your house because you're traveling. You're renting it at a car rental place, at an airport. So if they can't get people to rent them, how in Hades do they think people are going to buy the stupid things? Big Kurt says, private owner selling an '05 Camry for $600 with 250,000 miles. The transmission is a hard time going to second. Do you think it's a transmission or a sensor? Would it be worth the money to buy it? $600 is nothing for a Toyota Camry, right? If the engine runs okay, that's got 250,000 miles. I can guarantee you the transmission is starting to go out. That's what happens to them. They won't go into second gear. That's the first gear that wears out. There are millions of Camry transmissions out there in junkyards. See what they'll charge to put a used transmission into your car. You only paid $600 for the car. See what a remanufactured transmission costs, parts and labor. And if you're willing to spend that, then you got a really good car. But it is the transmission. It's not a little sensor. I know when they wear out. Second gear is the first gear that goes out. It's the acceleration gear, and so it wears out first. It's got 250,000 miles. So you want to gamble with the used transmission or see what a rebuilt one costs and go from there. And then see, that's $600. Add this on. Hey, might be a really good car. I've seen those things go 500,000 miles. 500 says, my mom got a brand new 2024 Camry last week. It's a good car, but it doesn't have the button to push it. It has a car key. It's weird. Hondas have buttons. Why doesn't Toyota have it? Okay, well, let me tell you, that bends me even further towards buying a Toyota Camry. If somebody smashes into one of our cars and totals it on a highway, I would buy a brand new Camry just because they still have automatic transmissions. You can get them without CVTs. And they're still using keys in some of them. I would much rather have a key. A key is safer. A computer nerd can break in any car that's got a keyless ignition. There's no key. It's all done by computer signals. They can figure out a way to get the signal and start your car and drive away. They can't do it with a key because they would need the physical key to put it in the ignition and turn it, which they don't have. It's actually a better idea. And thank goodness some companies haven't jumped on this ridiculous bandwagon of making all electronic, computer controlled. When all those things are going to break, they cost a fortune to make. Why do you think everyone else is using them? Because they cost a fortune to repair and they make a fortune repairing them when they break. Electronic stuff always breaks before its time. A key can last almost forever, right? A mechanical thing can last forever when it breaks. It's mechanical, easy. Take it off, put another one on, right? But electronic stuff, by its very nature, will break down. The batteries will go bad. The receiving unit will go bad. And then you just got to spend a fortune buying the parts, reprogramming the computer. Key goes in and turns and away you go. It only makes sense. And thank goodness some of these companies have more sense than the others. Kirk Marty says, my dad has a 98 Mercedes CLK 320 at 210,000 miles. The AC is weird. It blows cold air, But then you turn it off and turn it on, the compressor doesn't engage. The next day it worked and blew cold air. What could be wrong? So I tell people not to buy Mercedes, especially ones with 210,000 miles on them. They are the most complex cars. The HVAC system, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, it's all run by computers, and it's been that way for decades. All kinds of things can do that. It could be the compressor going out. It's got 210,000 miles, and you'll crap in your pants when you find out what a compressor costs to change in a Mercedes. Because if you're going to change a compressor, you really should change the expansion valve. On that car, the expansion valve's inside the dash. It's over $1,000 labor just to change that stupid little valve, right? Sometimes you say it works, sometimes it doesn't. Very well could be the compressor. Those things are so complex, you got to find a guy like me that understands them and has the equipment to work on them. I only have the equipment to work on them because the company's given to me free in the hope that I use it in my videos and people see it and go out and buy it, right? If I had to buy that equipment, I wouldn't work on the cars because it costs too much money. But I get the equipment free, so what the heck? I work on them. But they are so complex. Without that equipment, you're just guessing, and you're guessing with very expensive parts. This is why I tell people, do not buy a Mercedes if you think you want something that is going to last a long time and not break down and not be expensive to maintain, because they're exactly the opposite. Even in '98, those things were computer controlled on Mercedes-Benzes. Max Hub says, is carbon cleaning good and safe? These carbon cleaning companies claim they have a carbon cleaning machine that cleans carbon. They say they put the hose and it gives hydrogen pulses that go with the air to clean the system. Is it safe and legitimate? Well, yes, it is. One branch of these guys, they came over to me here in Tennessee. They hooked it up to my 94 Celica and they ran it for half an hour. We looked at it with borescope. We could see it cleaned it. Now, it's not going to clean everything off because the carbon ingrains into the metal, but it got any of the big pieces off, right? The way I could tell was, I've owned that car for a long time, that 94 Celica. And the only problem I always had was, it ran perfectly fine, but when you had the air conditioning turned on and you had it in drive, the engine would shake a lot. So I'd put it in neutral, and then it would stop shaking entirely. So I just drove it that way for years, right? They did the cleaning, and now when I drive that Celica with the air conditioning on, it purrs like a kitten. I don't have to push it neutral anymore. It made the engine run that much better. Then instead of sitting in drive with the AC on and the steering wheel shaking, now it's smooth as can be. It does work. It actually does clean the carbon out. Now, a lot of cars don't need carbon cleaning out of, but my car's got 250,000 miles, so of course there's carbon buildup in the engine, and it did a job cleaning it. Now, especially though if you have a diesel, they're custom made for diesels. They'll clean the diesel turbo. They'll even clean the catalytic converter in the diesel. It really does work. Now, the only problem is most of the guys only want to do fleets. They don't want to come to your house and do one car. But if you can find people who come to your house and do one car, what the heck? Or you go to them and they do one car, it does actually work. I was really shocked. Normally, I don't believe a lot of stuff. I know it's Celica inside out, right? And instead of sitting there shaking at an idle, now it's moved. So it does work. Jim1632 says, I got a Toyota Camry with the code P0712. That is the transmission temperature sensor. I don't know. Where is it? Help. It's kind of a pain in the butt to change, but it's totally doable. You take all the bolts off the bottom of the transmission pan, drain the fluid into a container. Then on the bottom is this big part called the valve body. It's all bolted in. Near the end on the bottom is the transmission essential that you pop out and put a new one in. Go ahead and buy one at Toyota, then you'll see what it looks like. And then when you take the bottom off, pull it out, pop it back in, plug it in, and then put it all back together and fill it with fluid. You might as well change the filter while you're at it, and then away you go. That's how it is. It's not an external part, it's inside. So you got to drop the pan. Well, Elon's testing out his electric semi-trucks, right? And I read an article. I couldn't help but laugh at the BS that's in it. It's titled, Tesla Semi Proves Itself in Fascinating New Independent Test. They had 3 Tesla semi-trucks in there driving around. One went 416 miles in a day, one went 376, and one went 565 miles. And here's the kicker. They gave no information on the loads they were pulling. I'm assuming the one that went 565 miles probably had no load at all. It was just pulling an empty trailer, right? The thing about 18-wheelers are, they can pull an awful lot of weight. A good semi-trailer truck can pull 48,000 pounds. So maybe they had one that went 500 something miles. I'm sure it wasn't pulling 48,000 pounds. And it would lose so much range, it would make your head spin. It wouldn't be any different than F-150 Lightning electric pickup that they say can go 250 miles, whatever the heck they say, right? But in reality, if they're towing a heavy load, they can go about 80 or 90 miles and they run out of electricity. And the same thing is true about these semi-trucks. You can drive them around empty fire, start filling them up with crap, which is what they're made for, and that is the end of it. Why do you think the big diesel trains, which can pull all kinds of weight, the big diesel trains, they're electric, but they have a diesel engine that generates electricity in a generator, and then the wheels are driven by electric motors. I guess they're experimenting with them, but if they did, it would be absurd. They wouldn't be able to go that far, pulling all that weight. Batteries are not made for pulling heavy weights. And in this case, they said, look, it proved itself. No, it didn't. It just proved you could drive an empty truck, fill it up with stuff, and then see how far you can go, you know? They're trying to prove, this is great, this is great. The only thing you use semis for, the big semis on the highways to carry heavy loads, right? And if they're going to get limited range with a heavy load, there is no point to them whatsoever. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.